starting off on the clutch side. First of all, I'm just cleaning all the red gunk off this plate. It's got to go there. I think we need to do a bit of cleaning up on that face as well. Make sure that's okay, and then we'll start putting all the flywheel and clutch and all those bits on this side. To clean this stuff off, I'm just using a bit of brake cleaner and a rather done in brass brush, but it works and it's coming off a treat. Knock the sprocket back and put the washer and the nut on, tightened it all up and just squish the tab over on the washer, so that should be secure. Now I'm going to clean this face and fit a new gasket and then fit that plate on. That's all nice and clean now and all that red stuff's come off, so it's time to put the gasket on and the plate. Put a little smidge of Hylamar just on the faceplate of this, just to hold the gasket in place so it doesn't start moving around when we put it onto the case. So that's the clutch backing plate all screwed on. Next to build up the clutch. Build up the clutch now. We've got a new set of rollers to go in, replacing the old ones. Obviously when you're trying to do these things, space it out so you've got the diameter right between the inner and outer, and then you can start to fill it with the rest of the rollers. It's a fiddly job. Some people say it's therapeutic, other people say it's frustrating. I'm more of the frustrating mind, but just crack on and get those spaces filled. I've found that if you can just balance it on the end of Phillips like so, they do tend to be easier to drop in like that. So this seems to be the recommended way of doing this. Set it all up like this, put the cush drive cover on top to sort of lock in that back plate with all the rollers on so they don't fall out, and just lift the whole thing onto here. Let's see if it'll work. It seems to have done the job. We can see the woodruff keys lined up there. I've just spun this round so it sort of sits on the splines. I think now I just need to tap it home. That seems to have done the trick. So now it's to put the rotor on, and woodruff key, stator on, and the tensioner, and then and to actually put the nut and the tab washer on there as well. Oh, and put the spacer on as well. So yep, looking good. So I put the little spacer and the nut with the raised sort of inner edge on there. Need to put this rotor on. This is a really strong magnet, this one. Looks like it doesn't need magnetising. I've already put the chain tensioner on as well, and then put the woodruff key in place, and then put the stator on. Okay, that's the clutch plates in. Start off with a metal DSM fibre, metal fibre, until you get to the last metal one. Now I just need to find out where I put my cush drive rubbers, the Smarty type, to put them in, and then to put the top of the clutch on. Obviously the stator's all done as well, tensioner, put some new nuts and split washers and washers on the actual stator as well. Rattle gunned that nut and then put the tab across, and rattle gunned that nut as well. So we're getting towards the end of this side. So that's one side done. The springs were particularly stiff. Took a little bit of a battle to sort that out. Clutch plates on. Time to flip over to the other side and try and sort out the kickstart, which I did have a go at a little while ago, and I got a bit sort of confused over it. So it's time to read the Rupert ratio book and figure out the best way of fitting that. So I was wondering about this kickstart because it's not in the right position and it keeps spinning back. I was mooching around looking at drawings and stuff. Then I noticed that little hole there, that one there, where the kickstart is. I thought, that's strange, something was sitting there. And then I noticed, you can just about see it down there. There we are. So yeah, there's a hole there. So I went back and looked at the drawings again. And lo and behold, there's a rod that goes in there that stops the kickstart moving back. So I've looked everywhere on all the bits I've got from the engine and a couple of other spares as well. I can't see any rod anywhere, so I've had to order another one from Dragonfly, and that's taken a little bit of time. It's been a few days now. So once that arrives, I'll be able to put that in, and also I was going to put the rotor on there for the electronic ignition. But what I'll do is I'll clean the engine up a bit more while I wait for the part to arrive and put it in that space there, and then at least it clears this bench up for other jobs. So the engine's now in the frame. I'm still waiting for a few bits and bobs to arrive from various suppliers, so I thought we'll start putting together the electronic ignition. So this goes on the end of the crank, just in there, like so. We'll have to sort of tighten that up later, but they say to leave it loose until you get the setting right, so that'll stay loose for the moment. And then in the case, you just need to put this in here. Like so. I believe those two prongs fit in those holes. Well, maybe not actually. Interesting. Right, I think I'll have a quick look at that, how that's meant to go in, and then come back to you. So the instructions weren't particularly clear, but hopefully I've done this right. I've done a bit of sort of search on the internet. There's not a great deal of information about these sparks, electronic ignition stuff. I did get it quite cheap off eBay, and I think they may have gone out of business because when I looked for their website, it said the domain was for sale. So what I've done is I've actually taken that back plate out, and once you take that back plate out, it seems to sort of fit in. It is quite a tight fit, so if you've got any smeg or anything around there, that needs cleaning up to get this in. So it looks okay. Could do with spinning that rotor and see if it's hitting anything, but it seems to be okay. So now I'm going to start to have a look at the battery box and the electronics that go in there to support the electronic ignition, while I wait for these parts to arrive for the kickstart and also for the clutch. Well, the missing part has finally arrived from Dragon Bikes, and put the little circlet on it, so I just need to transfer it from there into there. So there we have it, rods in place. I'm assuming that the circlet goes towards the inner case so you don't go too far into the inner case with that little rod. That's now pushing against the kickstart so it doesn't swing back. The little groove sitting at the top, which is good. I found the easiest way of actually doing the spring was to unhook this bit, turn it round, put the rod in, and then grab the spring and then tighten it up and then hook it back on there. That seemed to work for me. Now we need to look at wiring and of the electronic ignition next, before we put the ball bearing in for the gearbox, do the long legs, and putting the gasket on and sealing this this case. So I've just been putting the engine into the frame, and I struggled to get it down to this point. And I noticed that someone's been bashing this at some point to get it in the frame. These are different cases to what was in the frame originally, so I think we have to do a bit of precision grinding just to get rid of that lip, and then it should be able to drop into the frame mounts. So dig out the grinder and get grinded. Well, it's time to dig out the power file. I completely forgot I had one of these, so this would be the perfect thing to get into that small space and get rid of that lip. That's managed to get the engine in. I've also put the head steady on and put the car back on again. Need to get some nuts for that, and also figure out why I can't close up this case. Seems to be a couple of mil at the bottom that's stopping me from doing that, so I shall have a look and figure that out. I want to figure that out, start to wire up this don't know what you call it, replacement for points maybe, I don't know. Yep, and I also need to get some rubber matting because I'm changing this big old coil into a much smaller new coil. So here's my little CAD model of the box. I think you need to sort of twist it. There might be a little bit of a bending of metal slightly before I weld it all together, but it's there or thereabouts, so we'll cut that out, that shape out of the metal, then put the metal part in, do a bit of bending and things like that just to make those final adjustments, and then get the welder out. So get your little cardboard template that you made using your CAD, and using felt tip, just draw around it. And you can't really see on it, but that gives you a pattern. Get your grinder out and cut it out. So we've got our basic shape. Obviously I'm not great with a grinder, but now stick it in the vise, see if we can bend it and make some sort of box out of it. So we're just bending it by hand, and then using a hammer and dolly, I've just managed to do a rough shape of the battery box of the metal. Now I need to smooth off all those sides, and also just make sure it's fit for purpose. Get the battery in there, get the mounting points for the bottom of the box, and get the electronic little gizmos in there, like the reg and the little brain for the electronic ignition. Make sure there's enough space. Also, I'm going to get a bit of rubber matting to go around the insides of it as well to protect the components, and also make sure the battery doesn't rub up against the screws that are holding the little electronic gizmos in. But it's a good start for now. Like I say, just need a little bit more lining up, and then once everything's okay, I'll weld all the sides together. Working on the battery box, still haven't welded it. I will do soon once I'm happy with it all. One of the things was the rec just had bare wires, so I'm actually going to put a plug on this. I've got this sort of selection of plugs from Amazon. It was only £10, so well worth it. Now, one of the things I always do is, as well as crimping, I always solder as well, especially with being on a motorbike with all the vibrations. So I'm going to get the soldering iron out and solder those, and then I'll be sticking in this plug here. I've stuck to the same as the plug that's on the little sort of what's it called, the electronic ignition. So I'm going to stick with the female on this side, and also with the little sort of catch as well. So each plug's sort of similar to make it nice and neat. So I'm going to break out the soldering iron, solder those connections on, and then once they've cooled down, stick them into the plug.